Today, we're going to talk about something really interesting, a spiritual gift that's all about bridging that frustrating gap between knowing what you're supposed to do and actually doing it. We're diving into the gift of exhortation. You know that feeling, right? Where you have all the information, you know the right path to take, but for some reason, you just can't get your feet to move. It feels a lot like procrastination, maybe a little bit of hesitation, and honestly, it's a struggle we all face. So this really boils down to a classic conflict, knowing versus doing. It's so easy for many of us to become, as the saying goes, hearers of the word, but not doers. We get the concept, we nod along, but putting it all into practice, well, that's a whole other ballgame. And look, this isn't some huge personal failing, it's just a common human tendency. We hear the truth, we agree with it, we might even feel inspired by it for a moment, but then life happens. We get distracted, we tell ourselves I'll do it later, and that initial intention just kind of fizzles out. And it's exactly this gap that makes a certain kind of encouragement so absolutely vital. So, how do we get across that gap? Well, this is where the gift of encouragement, or to be more specific, the gift of exhortation, comes into play. Think of it as that divine nudge, that little push that helps move us from just agreeing with something to actively getting it done. So what exactly is exhortation? It's a grace-given ability to encourage, to motivate, and to stir people into action. It's that person who comes alongside you, claps you on the shoulder, and says, "Come on, we can do this. Let's do it now." It's the voice that turns "I should" into "I am." And here's a really crucial point. This gift, just like all spiritual gifts, is given by grace. You don't earn it, you don't become worthy of it. And this is so important because it knocks down two huge barriers. On one side, it means we can never feel too unworthy to receive it. And on the other, it keeps us from getting self-righteous if we have it. It's just a gift, plain and simple. Now, it's helpful to see how exhortation is different from its partner, the gift of teaching. Think of them as a 1-2 punch. The teacher focuses on information. They answer the question, what is true? They lay out the facts. But then the exhorter steps in. Their focus is on motivation. They come in and say, okay, you've got the truth. Now let's do it. Both are absolutely essential. So, where do we actually see this gift at work? Let's turn to the scriptures, because there are some really powerful examples of how exhortation has played out throughout history. First up, let's look at the Old Testament prophets. Their job wasn't just about predicting the future. A massive part of their ministry was to exhort the people of Israel, to constantly call them back to the truths they already knew but had forgotten to live by. Listen to this plea from 2 Kings 17. It's so direct, so urgent. Turn you from your evil ways and keep my commandments. See, this wasn't new information for them. It was a powerful, passionate call to act on the truth they'd been given long ago. Okay, let's jump forward to the New Testament and see how the Apostle Peter uses this gift. He directly exhorts the elders, the leaders of the church, giving them very clear, very specific instructions on how they should be leading. Just listen to all the action words in this passage from 1 Peter. Feed the flock, taking the oversight, not by constraint but willingly, being in samples. He isn't just defining what a leader is, he's giving a practical hands-on command for how to lead. And of course, you can't talk about exhortation without talking about the Apostle Paul. The man was a master at it. He would lay out these deep, incredible theological truths, and then he would always pivot to urging believers to actually live them out. And this verse from Romans 12 might be one of the greatest exhortations ever written. After 11 chapters of mind-blowing doctrine, Paul says, "I beseech you, therefore, present your bodies a living sacrifice." He's basically saying, okay, in light of everything I just told you, here is what you need to do. And then there's James. Oh man, James is like the classic textbook exhorter of the New Testament. His entire letter is just this fiery, passionate plea for a faith that is real, authentic, and most of all, active. James doesn't beat around the bush at all, does he? He essentially says, don't just tell me about your faith, show me. I want to see your works. For James, if your faith doesn't lead to action, well, it's not really faith at all. Okay, so we've seen the biblical examples. That's the what. But what about the how? How does all this actually translate into our lives today? Let's get really practical and look at a biblical to-do list. In his letter to the Thessalonians, Paul gives this amazing, super practical checklist for what a healthy community looks like. He tells them to do 6 things: warn the unruly, comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, be patient with everyone, always be joyful, and pray constantly. Every single one is a direct, actionable command. And all of this, everything we've talked about, it all comes down to one final challenge for you and for me. The whole point is to move from being a passive listener to being an active participant, to finally close that gap between knowing and doing for good. And here it is, the verse from James that just perfectly sums it all up. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. And that last part is the kicker, isn't it? When we only listen, we fool ourselves into thinking that knowing is enough. But it's the doing that truly matters. So, after all of this, the final question isn't, what did you learn? The real question is, what are you going to do? What is one thing you know is right that you can finally put into action today?